Downfall, The View continues to plummet, invites disgraced ESPN journalist to bash Trump by Cillian Zeal for the conservativetribune.com. I've always personally felt that the title of ABC's Gabfest, The View, was missing something. I'm not personally opposed to calling it The View per se. I just think the three words from the left ought to be appended to it. Every morning at roughly 11 a.m. or thereabouts, depending on your local affiliate, the American Broadcasting Company airs what amounts to a paid political advertisement for the Democratic Party, in which a gaggle of female liberal celebrities vigorously lambast anything and everything to the right of Hillary Clinton's campaign platform, along with the token conservative allowed to be in their midst. That conservative is currently Meghan McCain, proof positive that actual conservatives were a bit much for their taste. The show has come under fire in recent weeks, particularly after Joy Behar essentially called praying Christians, or at least Christians who pray like Mike Pence, mentally ill. Now the show is back in the spotlight after an appearance by Jemele Hill, the ESPN journalist who called Donald Trump a white supremacist and was later disgraced with a suspension due to a tweet urging the boycott of Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. 5 months after the tweet that Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists, she appeared on the liberal talk show where she defended her statement against what amounted to cursory opposition. It might be better to simply call it curiosity from the aforementioned Ms. McCain. There's her tweet back in September. I still stand by what I said, Hill told McCain when asked whether she was still willing to stand by her statement, according to the Daily Beast. She added that I don't think that his supporters are white supremacists. They do, however, suffer from something just as bad, the dreaded disease, privilegeitis. Whititis. Oh my, what is that? What I would say, though, is that they have the benefit and privilege to be able to distance and disassociate themselves from certain issues, Hill said. Me, as a woman of color, I feel vulnerable to certain behaviors, certain policies, certain things that he's said and done, and so all of that was part of that response, feeling that vulnerability. Yeah, it's always, the victim player. If it doesn't impact you directly, or if you don't feel that, it's probably harder for you to understand it. Hilariously, Hill didn't think calling the president a white supremacist, surrounded by white supremacists, and not being particularly eager to classify at the time that she didn't think it applied to his privileged supporters would amount to much. I did not expect in that moment that it was going to become what it became, Hill said. Really, now let's be clear here. White supremacist is a rhetorical hand grenade that isn't to be tossed around lightly. It is someone who literally believes in a master race, believes it is white, and in an American context is usually willing to use violent means to defend it and to target members of other races. A white supremacist is not, I repeat, is not someone who believes to be insufficiently supportive of causes and positions that you associate with people of color. It is not someone who doesn't ascribe to post-colonialist dogma. It isn't someone who didn't like President Obama or thinks that the Black Lives Matter movement has been prone to excess, or who supports their local police or who thinks that illegal immigration is, well, illegal and ought to be punished as such. None of these things are white supremacists. None of these things have ever been white supremacist. Labeling them as such does not, alas, change that salient fact. If Hill has information that the president is himself or is surrounding himself with American history X types, she, as a journalist, has the obligation to come forward with this information for the good of the country. Until that time, it's fair to say her statement is objectively false. As for her thoughts that white people who support Donald Trump are privileged and just don't get it, I would propose that it might be the other way around. Let's not forget that Hill has gone further than simply calling Trump supporters privileged. In an appearance on Al Sharpton's MSNBC show, Hill compared the president's State of the Union speech to racial pornography, ostensibly painting them as mindless, lustful consumers of bigotry. Hill has ensconced herself deep within the insulating bubble of the political media, which ESPN, a former sports network, is now a member in good standing of. These are the people who thought Donald Trump could never win and then failed to understand the reasons why, simply labeling it either bigotry or a hitherto unknown darkness of the heart that had affected Americans. The idea that blue-collar, middle-income Americans, who often have their acceptable range of opinions dictated to them by the American media, are privileged beyond opinion makers like Hill simply because of the color of their skin, would be funny were it not so pernicious. Her clarifying statements on those individuals since the tweet that anyone who voted for or supports the president is a vicious automaton blinded by their privilege and nourished on racial pornography are reprehensible. In fact, the fact that she wasn't given anything resembling a grilling on them by the women of The View is equally sickening. But hey, it's all good to call Christians mentally ill, right, Joy Behar? Yeah, I wish they would have put it more in layman's terms and get it to the point on this article, because like half of the words, nobody uses them. I just think, let's just take a little listen to this.
ESPN's Jemele Hill.
Yeah. Let's clap for those.
Recently you were a hot topic here for calling out the new guy in the White House.
New guy,
his response to the rally in Charlottesville back in August. Since you're here, tell us what happened.
Well, like a lot of people, I was feeling very emotional because Charlottesville had happened, and I did what you shouldn't do when you feel emotional, a little angry, is go to Twitter. Mm-hmm. And I got into a dialogue with a Twitter user, and obviously everybody's seen the tweets, you know what I've said, and I did not expect in that moment that it was going to become what it became. I didn't expect it to one day be a hot topic on the View. Right. And it just kind of escalated from there. So then it leads to, obviously, the president personally calling me out in a tweet, the White House calling or saying what I did was a fireable offense. So it was a lot going on. But
well, you just to clear it up, because there are some people that don't know about what you tweeted. You tweeted.
Well, let her finish the explanation.
Oh, okay.
Let her finish what happened, and then you can explain.
Yeah, no, I mean, it that was really just the gist of it. It's just being emotional, going to Twitter, getting in it back and forth, and suddenly I became a walking think piece.
Okay.
So you said Donald Trump is you tweeted, Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists.
Yeah.
And that was...
right after Charlottesville.
Right after Charlottesville.
Right. Yeah, so that's why I said I was reacting and responding in that moment.
So we've all tweeted things in the moment, myself included. I've tweeted things in the heat of the moment when I've been emotional. It's something I've had to learn the hard way not to do as I've grown in my career. Do you still stand by what you said, and do you think that President Trump's supporters are white supremacists?
I still stand by what I said. I don't think that his supporters are white supremacists. What I would say, though, is that they have the privilege, the benefit of privilege to be able to distance and disassociate themselves from certain issues. Me as a woman of color, I feel vulnerable to certain behaviors, certain policies, certain things that he said and done. And so all of that was part of that response of feeling that vulnerability. If it doesn't impact you directly, or if you don't feel that, it's probably harder for you to understand it. And so I just ask those who do support him to understand that that perspective is coming from that place. It's not about calling you out necessarily. It's about the fact that in this time and in this moment, it feels like people of color are under attack.
What would you say to like,
really?
I'm genuinely curious to have this conversation because I remember when it happened being sort of taken aback. Like, what would you say to a Ben Carson, who's working in the administration, who's obviously not white? Would you consider him a white supremacist?
No, I mean, I wouldn't. As I said, I don't consider his supporters or everyone.
You also just said you stand by what you tweeted, which is that he's surrounded by white supremacists.
Yeah, but I wasn't talking about Ben Carson. I think we know the names that I was talking about.
But he works in the administration.
He does. I didn't say he was surrounded by everybody he was surrounded by was
with
a white
other white supremacists.
Obviously, Steve Bannon. I could go down the list of people who have at very least played footsie with white supremacists.
And those people who march with him, who march with him.
So that's what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
Would you do it again? Because I know there was a second tweet that and we're friends, as you know.
Yeah.
There's a second tweet, and you tweeted in October about the Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, who indicated that players who protest during the national anthem would be told not to play.
Yeah.
And you tweeted, if you strongly reject what Jerry Jones said, the key is his advertisers. Don't place the burden squarely on the players. And you were suspended for that for 2 weeks. Would you do that again?
No, I probably wouldn't do that again. I think, and this is the problem with Twitter, as we all know, Twitter is not a great place for nuance. You know, I wasn't specifically calling for a boycott of the NFL or of Jerry Jones, but I understand how it could be interpreted that way. And, you know, let's just keep it 100. My employer is in business with the NFL.
Right.
And some of those same advertisers that Jerry Jones has, they also are advertisers of ESPN. So I very much understood why I was suspended. It was not related to the Trump tweets. It was more or less related to that and putting the company in a tough position. You asked me, would I do it again?
Yeah.
And I would just do it a different way. I wouldn't take it to Twitter. What I should have done, especially because we were having all these national conversations, is gone to ESPN and asked if I could write a column about it instead, to kind of, at least in a more widely, with more breadth and more depth, explain my position.
They're all
because it's only
concerned.
140 characters on
What
Twitter.
is the good thing about Twitter, pray tell? I mean, the president tweets constantly
Right.
and gets into trouble and then does crazy stuff on Twitter. You're getting in trouble. People say crazy stuff. You say you did too.
Oh, I've tweeted crazy things when I was younger.
Well, what is the
very
reason that
impulsive
people
media.
continue to use Twitter? Because it seems like it's a destructive force rather than a constructive force.
So I completely understand that viewpoint. And there are days where I wake up and I go to Twitter and I say, oh my God, the stupid people have won. However, there are other times and other moments where really amazing things happen. Like the Black Panther Challenge. That's an amazing thing that started off as a social media engine. And while I realize it may not happen enough for your liking, but there are positive interactions that take place.
And I will say, I reached out to you when all
You
this
did.
was going
I
on.
appreciate
Of course you would.
You're welcome. Because I also saw the stuff that you were on the receiving end of. I mean, people were calling you the N-word. They were calling you the C-word. It was
Started to think it was my middle name.
Yeah,
honestly.
it was unbelievable to me, the vitriol that you got for basically giving your opinion, much like we get. How did you feel about that?
Unfortunately, it's something I've had to grow used to. I'm sure you guys have had to as well. And I hate saying that.
We don't read it.
Well, but even still, you know it's out there, right?
yourself.
You know it's out there, right?
Yeah.
And so I hate to empower the idiots that do it,
Yeah.
but you have to, in this business, to survive, kind of have a thick skin.
Yeah, that's
You gotta have a very thick
Yeah.
skin. And, you shouldn't really read a lot of the tweets, because what happens is people actually take them to heart and start believing them.
Yes.
And my question always is, why would you let somebody who doesn't know you affect you that way? Because they're mean and nasty. So,
But her comments aren't mean and nasty. You see, you cannot be in the public with these kind of views. Basically, that's the bottom line. And I wonder if she's back at work at ESPN, because she should have been out, and these cackling hens at The View should be out of a job. But again, as the article says, They are the talking points of the Democrats. Yeah, basically that's the bottom line. Once you turn them on, it's a platform, right? What here? Every morning, yeah, okay. It airs what amounts to a paid political advertisement for the Democratic Party in which a gaggle of female liberal celebrities vigorously lambaste anything and everything to the right of Hillary Clinton's campaign platform. That's it. Along with the token conservative Meghan McCain, yeah. That's it. Basically, that's the bottom line. And, you know, why white people watch them is beyond me. Because white people should just turn their sets off to these people. That's basically the bottom line. Because they're getting paid through you. And these people have a hatred towards white people. Basically, that's the bottom line. It's disgraceful in this day and age. It's disgraceful.